Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me, as always, is Logan Stuff.
How's it going, everybody?
He is a man who just got back from a date night at the Orlando City game. How'd that go?
Oh, it was good. I got to take Ashley for the first time and experience MLS, and I haven't had that much experience with it, so it was new for pretty much. I mean, I'm still getting used to it, and we sat in different seats this time, so we sat more towards the middle of the pitch.
Do you usually sit on the same seat?
So yeah. Oh man, yeah. So anyway, I bought seats further down the center of the pitch, and usually I sit where I had been sitting was more towards the corner flag, just up on the second level. Which honestly, if you're watching soccer, I think that second level is better anyway. But I was 3 rows off the second level down that way. We were about 6 rows up this time, but more towards the center of the pitch, and it was a lot better just because the good thing is we were distancing the last time that I had been. So last time I went, so I could turn my chair, I could turn myself when they were down on that side of the pitch. But this time I was just I just had to turn my head, which was good. But no, she loved it. I don't know, loved it. She liked it. She would go again. So that was always something that I was worried about. I was if I do take her, would she even pay attention? But she did. She liked it. I know. How does Joy like them? Does she get into them?
Yeah, Joy likes soccer. Yeah, so she'll watch those games. When we were at the baseball game at the Nationals Orioles game, she was mostly booking dining reservations for our Disney trip the whole time, and she's asking me these questions. And I'm I bought the scorecard, so I'm keeping score, with the pen and paper,
Yep.
And I'm doing this, and I'm yeah, whatever you want. I'm paying attention to this. Grand slam happened in the first inning. She missed that because she went to the restroom.
You missed the best part.
She texted me from there, and she was all I got was a text that said, damn it. And I was you shouldn't have gone. It's the first inning. But, yeah, so we had some fun there. But she does not pay much attention to it, though there's a few times I had to go pick up food for her or go to the bathroom that I was here, you keep score now. And she's I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm just do as best as you can on what I've done. And when I get back, fill me in and I'll fill out it correctly. So that was experience. And she made it seem like this was. Did you ever go to games and keep score, Logan?
Yeah, all the time when I was little, especially.
The scorebook, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. But we get home at some point, and she's just how'd you even know how to fill that thing out? I was well, I used to go to games, and my dad taught me how to do it, and that's how you do it. And she was oh, that's interesting. I was it's just a baseball thing.
I guess you're just. I don't. That's one of the first things you learn, because I think when you're little, you see somebody doing it, and you're going, "What are they doing?"
Yeah. Mine came with if you bought the David Sunflower seeds,
yes.
The bucket, it came with one of the scorebooks.
Yep, that you could get them real cheap. You get them $5 at Dick's Sporting Goods a while back, or Sports Authority, or something like that. But yeah, we used to have stacks of them. But it does it takes some practice. Whereas in soccer, there's not a whole lot. I like
not a lot of keeps track of.
Right, I like the Arlo the card that he always has.
Yeah,
the
broadcast. Shows.
Mm-hmm. Those are cool. But but I think soccer. For those people that are just getting into it, or have people that are getting interested in it, I know my family hardly is. They always make fun of it, just because they don't understand how interesting it is. I think, and that's what Ashley said. She goes, "This constant. They're always moving, and they're always doing things." And
that's why I think it's always interesting. You got to take somebody to a game.
Yeah, you do.
Because I think if you're watching at home, you don't appreciate it because you're not seeing the off-the-ball movement that everybody is making. You're only seeing what the camera is panned to. And I think that is part of the reason why it gets such a bad a bad rap, I guess. Because on football, you can see all the movement because it's all 22 players are lined up like right when the ball is getting hiked, you know? Basketball is such a small court. You're seeing all the movement because all the players are on one half of the court.
Yeah.
Baseball, you're really only focused on where the pitcher is and what the hitter's doing until the ball is put in play. And you already know where those players are positioned unless they're like shifting or something. With soccer, it's just constant movement, constant going with the ball and without the ball.
Yeah. They're hell of an athlete too. Like that's what she said. Like she noticed. I mean, she noticed the guys, of course, but like, you know, she who was it? It was Kyle Smith from Orlando City. That she was like, it's, for some reason, all the girls like him. They're drawn to him. I don't know if it's the tattoos or it seems like a nice guy out there. I don't know. But she was watching him, and he's very like involved in attack. So he was running up and down the pitch on the right hand side, and you know, when he's doing that, you don't realize how much they run and how athletic they are, and they just keep going at top speeds. It's like it's insane.
For 90 minutes, like that's crazy.
Yeah. Whereas, like I always laugh at my dad before we move on. I always laugh at my dad because he's always like, "Oh, well, it's a soccer. Did they score this time?" I'm like, "You watch baseball, like."
There's been 6 no-hitters this year.
I'm a big baseball fan. I grew up playing it. I grew up loving it. It was my favorite sport. I think soccer is getting there, but like baseball is my favorite sport. And watching it, I'm like, soccer is more interesting to watch. It just is because there's just so much more going on with the eyes. Whereas baseball,
you know how long a game is too. Like
yes.
When we went to the Nationals Orioles game, it was like the first inning took about half hour because it was 5 runs.
It was bad,
and then it was like the game took 3 hours and 40 minutes. But like I know with soccer, at least, I can set aside 2 hours if you include halftime and stoppage time, and you're under 2 hours and you're done. But you're right. Baseball was my favorite sport growing up until probably around 2010 when I started really like soccer went from like third to first.
I think World Cup too is like the best competition across all sports.
That's why I like the World Baseball Classic too. I love when sports have those, you know, things. And, you know, I always see like baseball fans making fun of soccer and soccer fans making fun of baseball. And I'm like in that weird spot where I'm like, I like both of you
Me
guys.
too.
Like, stop. But yeah, so let's actually talk some games, I guess, before we last the whole show doing this. But I'm glad she enjoyed it. I'm glad she enjoyed it. And that she's going to go to more of these games with you at some point. And that you have to definitely go check out a Pride game because they've been a surprise this season. They've been pretty good.
Yeah, I saw Alex Morgan scored the other day. They play tomorrow night, so I'll be watching them tomorrow night.
I think it was Alex Morgan and Sydney LaRue.
Yeah, Sydney LaRue scored too, yeah. Yeah, it's cool. The Mother Clan there. So.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk some headlines. Logan, do you want to go first here with your first headline?
Yeah, so we'll keep it in trend and keep in theme too, and go with Orlando City's defense. And you'll see coming up on the power rankings that's coming out tomorrow. We talk some about the defense, but that's why I think they are probably top 2 in the league is because their defense has been so good, and they're missing Joao Matinho. He hasn't played but one match and a half. And they were out without Janssen for a while there. So, Ruan is now out. So he picked up a niggle they call it. He picked up some kind of knock in training, and so he's out. And he's been our best player, I think, across the board. I mean, between him and Mendez, I think that in Mendez playing more of that 6, right, in that midfield and kind of playing into that destroying role some too. It's just Orlando City's defense just is so solid. And then not to mention they have one of the best keepers, I think, in MLS. He's just so fun to watch too. He's like an octopus out there, and I think they call him that, El Pulpo. And he's got this. First of all, I love his hair. Like, I just love the way that he like carries himself. I just love everything about him. He's very loud. You can hear him yelling all the time. commanding that back line. And, to give up 2 goals, one on a PK to Castellanos, I think that's something to really kind of hone in on. I think that this team, I think goals will come. And if the defense can keep playing like this, I don't know if there's a lot of teams in the East that can compete with them. I think that the next best defense might be Philly. And, I think that that's a really good group to be with because they were so sound last year in defense. So, again, I'm so impressed with what Oscar's done with this defense, with guys that, I think their first mindset is defense instead of attack. Joao's a little bit more attack-minded. But, again, it's a solid back line. They've got about 5 or 6 options that it seems now to really do a good job in the defense. And Antonio Carlos is one guy I didn't even mention who's probably been just a silent killer. He puts out so many attacking plays, and he puts water on so many chances before they even get to Galisi. So this is a really good team, and I can't wait to see what they can do, especially if they get the attack going.
Yeah, I think Orlando is look. I've been singing Oscar Perea's praises before he got there. I'm going to always bring it up. He was always one of my picks for the U.S. national team. So far, we're working okay with Berhalter, but it was just something where, as soon as he's available, I was looking at him for like any job. And I think even before Curtin really took off at the Union, I was like, why can't we just go get somebody like Oscar Perea? He's out there, but the Union have kind of come on since then, and I guess I was wrong. But it is one of those things that's just I love the guy, and I think that he can be successful anywhere he goes. And Orlando needed this. They were a city that were ready for a team. 2015, when I was down there, they were handing out free magnets everywhere. They were people were talking about them on the radio stations all the time. They had Kaká, right?
Yep.
But then they just weren't good enough. And we saw that with Toronto. Toronto was this hotbed with a big fan base, but they took so long to make the playoffs that there was times where the fan base was dwindling. And then Greg Vanney comes in, leads them to the playoffs for the first time. Then they win MLS Cup, and they're moving on, winning trophies, supporter shields, all this kind of stuff. CCL finals. He took them as far as he could. He moves on. Oscar Perea, I feel like, is in that same sort of position where he comes in to a fledgling franchise that really needed that run last year to really keep people interested, I think. In both they had the run in MLS's back, and they also had the run in the playoffs. And now I feel like people are like excited again about them. I'm not sure. I'm not down there, so I don't know what the feel is. But like 2015 was a magical time for it, where I was listening to games on 104.3 or whatever station it was down there, and I was, went to a game against Toronto, and it was like it was hopping. I saw magnets on every single car. I saw people wearing the gear everywhere. Disney World now, you used to have. I feel like it's getting again where like everybody's wearing Orlando stuff, because I remember being down there and it would just be like, me and my friend would pretty much be like, oh, look, there's always somebody wearing a soccer kit, And now we start really recently seeing a lot more Orlando kits down there, Orlando gear, which I think is cool because most of the people there are not people that live there in Disney World. So long story short, the fact is this is a good team. They needed this to be a good team. And now what you need is to win some sort of silverware to, show the fans that we're good. We're going to be continuing to be good. We're going to win a piece of silverware or something in the coming years. And we're going to be perennial challengers for, MLS Cup.
Yeah. And I will say, one last thing before we move on to is I did see a tweet where the Will family finally got to meet with supporter groups, and the supporter groups came out of it, and it was all over like the blogs, like the Lions Den and things like that, that were tweeting it out. And Kay Rollins and the Rollins family. They were talking about the fact that the players loved what they heard from ownership. The fans loved what they heard from ownership, that they seem to be very much willing to spend whatever it takes to get championships, because I think they see this as an opportunity to finally get championships in their family name. Because I don't, again, the Vikings, no offense to them, but they're just not a team that I think you're going to get a lot of championships out of. So hopefully the Will family comes in and can infuse, because they've already got a great stadium. They've got great fans. They've got a great crest. Now they've got great product on the field. They've got great,
we got a manager, that can. Yeah. Who's going to play the young guys? What you guys need to focus on now is you got the foundation,
the academies,
and now it's the academies. Yeah, because once you start bringing your own people through, that's going to be money that is going to help the club, and also just be cheaper to run on. Use your money more for some of those bigger names, DPs, and then churning out academy products.
Right, and they've got a nice stealth of they've got a very wealthy, I guess, young core that is just their riches is in this young core of American young players. It's Andres Perea, Benji Michel. You've got guys that like Tesho Akindele, like those are younger guys that I think. Well, Tesho's 29; he's not young, but
hey, I'm 29.
Sorry, watch your mouth. But no, like Chris Mueller. You've got younger guys like a Joey Dezar, just guys that are really young. Alvarado, who's a younger guy, and he's Ecuadorian, I think. So just young guys that are pumping through, and they're trying to get more young guys in those academies that they've set up.
See, this is another similarity to baseball for me. The academy reminds me of minor leagues, which reminds me of I understand baseball still drafts those players, but when you have I feel like the way I've heard about Paxton Aronson for all these years is the same way I hear about prospects in baseball. And you're like, man, when they come up, they're going to be great. And then, it's just a little different with soccer. But it's another similarity with how that works, I feel like. Our two favorite sports there. Moving on to my headline, I'm going to talk about DC United. People are like, why do you want to talk about an 11th place team? And I'll say, I don't know. Why do I?
I hope you do.
No, I do know. Here's the thing. Here's their schedule, right? They started off with New York City FC. And they won that. No, that was in April. When did we start the season? In April, right? Yeah, so that was their first game. New York City FC. DC won that game. They lose to New England Revolution off an own goal. Granted, they get battered by San Jose, but they're in San Jose, so whatever. They lose to the Crew. Okay, not great. They beat the Chicago Fire. They lose to Orlando City 1-0, but they played a hell of a match in that game. Really, probably should have got something out of that. And they lose to Philadelphia Union 1-0. They're barely giving up any sort of goals since the Columbus game. In fact, they've only given up 2 in their last 3 games. All of their last 3 games have finished 1-0, either to them or against them. Really, the only blip on their radar is the Crew game and the San Jose game. And Crew was in Columbus when they were kind of in a point where they had to win a game. And San Jose was just hot at that moment. They've drifted back down. And it was a cross-country travel. So for me, I think this is, look, I believe in what Losada is doing for this team. I think that they, with all their injuries, we've talked about how they have to be, weary of a slow start, but I feel like they've been doing decently with the teams they faced off against. I'm not saying their world beaters are going to be at the dance at the end of the season, but when I look at the standings and they're 11th place in the East, and they're actually only 2 points back from 6th place, and they're only 3 points back of 5th. I know it's still early in the season, but if they do get a little healthier, they could challenge for a playoff spot and inevitably drift lower than that. I do think it's something where they'll be talked about for a bit because their defense has been pretty solid the last few weeks. In fact, they beat NYCFC. I remember thinking like, whoa, NYCFC is sucking this year. But then NYCFC turned it around. So I'm not really sure what to get of DC. But when we predicted them, we had them 13th and 12th. And I won't be surprised if they finish more like 10th. And I think that'd be a great achievement for Losada in his first year. And then going forward, building off of that.
And you're looking at Paul Arriola coming back into the fold because he's now back to health. And I thought he looked really good against Union. I thought he played well. Mm-hmm. And he's just going to be serviceable. A lot like he means to them what Jordan Morris means to Seattle. I mean, that's how good he can be for them. I mean, not on the Jordan Morris scale because Jordan Morris played extremely well. But I'm saying like as far as character, as far as leadership, as far as creating – like he's a big piece into what they're going to be able to do, DC. And I thought that he looked healthy, he looked fit, he looked good. And I know he's fighting for a spot now, and you're going to see that too. You're seeing the point now to where he's going to start fighting for some of these spots on the U.S. men's national team, different competitions that he wants to possibly be in. So I know he's got that kind of chip on his shoulder. And you're looking at a team too, like you said, Jordan. I think that. While there are teams out there, and we'll get to a couple later on in the show, but like there's teams out there that just try to put the Band-Aid on something, and we're like, okay, well, let's just go buy money, or let's just go buy a bunch of talent and see what's happening.
Buy money.
You can buy money, I guess. Yeah, let's go buy money. I think Manchester City does that, but but I think what I'm getting to is just the fact that Brandon Hines-Ike, he's played extremely well. I think Hernan Losada has like a plan, like a game plan of like what he wants going forward. They're playing that 3 in the back vertical football where it's over the top. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's very attack minded. Get as many people in the box as you can. And I think as people get healthy, like you said, I think this team is going to surprise some people, and at least they're going to be competitive with teams, and it's not going to be an easy win like I think we thought maybe they would be heading into the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is one of the biggest things for them. What is your second headline?
Yeah, so I've got NYCFC adding, and I'm not talking about just points. I'm talking about the fact that they just added. I don't want to butcher this. Talis Magno. I think that's how you say it. Magno. I wanted to say Mango. I always thought that it was Mango, but it's Magno. He's coming over from Brazil. 18-year-old. He was playing in Brazil and was touted as being one of these like wonder kids. There's a guy that signed with City recently, Kaikai, who signed with City, who is like this kid's like comparison of how good he can be. This kid's 18. I was watching highlights of him, Jordan. There's like really good highlights of him. There's like a welcome to NYCFC kind of thing. It's not NYCFC that did it. It was somebody else on YouTube. I can't remember it, but it was like a really good production of highlight clips of him. And you know who he reminds me of a little bit? He reminds me like skill set of like a Leroy Sané, just because of how like big he is. Like he's a big winger. He's left-footed. At least it looked left-footed because he comes in on the left foot. He plays the left wing. He's very good with his right foot, though. He put a couple balls in with his right foot that were just as good. He cuts in midfield a ton. And I think that he adds some real prowess in that, attack, because I think having Medina there, having Maxi Morales back when he's healthy, having Castellanos, adding him into the mix, this NYCFC team's, I mean, that's a pretty big signing for NYCFC, adding a player like that and getting some of these players in that they had been waiting on. There's another, it's escaping me who exactly it is, but I think there's another player they had been waiting on too to get visa clearance. I can't think of the person off the top of my head right now, but again, they've looked really good so far this season. Adding this kid, this could be a dangerous NYCFC team again.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I think NYCFC adding is definitely something that is could be. Sorry, my dog just barked. Could be a big deal. They're 6th place currently, 8 points. They've kind of drifted back again after, for a while they were kind of like, they were started off the season so slow, kind of peaked, and then almost back down again. So much so the Philadelphia Union are ahead of them now.
Yeah.
The Union are up to third in the East. That's pretty wild.
Oh yeah, that's what. Sorry, Thiago Andrade is coming over. He's from Brazil too, and he's really good. I think he's also a winger. So it's they've got so many attacking options that are young. He's 20, and it'll be interesting to see if Magno plays. But he was at practice today, and I think both of them are able to be selected here coming up this weekend. I think Andrade was the one waiting on the visa.
Yeah, look, they definitely need to add. I feel like they were – look, we talked about it all offseason that they didn't add anything really except for, Alfredo Morales. So the fact that they're adding is good for New York City FC.
Mm-hmm.
Their biggest concern right now, I think, is getting fans excited. I don't think these players do it, though. And I think playing in Red Bull Arena doesn't do it. This could very well become a very bad situation further down the road. You know who they remind me of? The Oakland Athletics. Okay?
Yeah.
With their stadium issue. And I'm like, they've been in whatever the Coliseum in Oakland forever. Mm-hmm. They're not getting a new stadium. They might move, right? But New York City FC is not going to be leaving New York. They're just going to be probably playing in like New Jersey or somewhere else. But it's that kind of thing where you don't want it to stretch on that long, man. You got to figure out a stadium deal. And playing in Red Bull Arena is not it, because you told your fans that you're going to have a stadium in the heart of the boroughs and you're New York's team, and that the Red Bulls are not New York's team because they play in Jersey. And now you're playing in Jersey with them. And the fans were actually kind of protesting when they played in Red Bull Arena this week. They had a banner saying, "We're here just for the players," I think it was. So, yes, they're adding. That's great. And you know what? Winning will probably smooth over a lot of stuff. But with all the money they've poured into this team, they haven't really won anything of value. They haven't won anything. They had David Villa for a while, and they were a team that was constantly at the top. And adding these two players are not big star names where it's going to get them anywhere that wise. And the fact that they're also playing in a stadium that's not their stadium is not going to get their fans on board. They got to win, and they just lost to Crew, who's been struggling. They're in some deep problems. I think they need a new coach. I think they need new system overhaul. And look, for me, it's no surprise that Reyna left to go to Austin, probably because he's like, oh, they're going to have a stadium. They're going to have all these great things. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to build a team there. And they haven't been able to figure it out since he's left. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Are you good to move on? I can talk mine.
We're good.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I just kind of hijacked yours and kind of.
No. I agree. I totally agree. Without Claudio Reyna.
NYCFC after you were giving them praise for adding, but I feel like, hey, that's you're a New York market. Deal with it. Yeah, Nashville. I want to talk to their defense. Look, if I were to tell you at the beginning of the season, there's going to be 3 undefeated teams as we enter week 6 here, week 7 here. Who are they? Would you have said Seattle, Orlando, and then Nashville?
No.
No, because if we look at our predictions, we probably would have said Crew, LAFC, and Portland or something.
Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. That got wrecked week 1. Nashville, they're doing it. And really, when I look at their schedule, their defense has been so lights out the last 4 weeks. Look, week 1 and 2 were not great. They give up 2 early goals against Cincinnati, 2 early goals against Montreal, but they come back for those. The attack saves them. They finish 2-2 in both of those games. In the month of May, no goals scored against them at all. Mm-hmm. No goals against Miami. That finishes 0-0. They beat New England 2-0 for all the New England fans out there that think that they should be higher. Salt Lake drew with them 0-0. And Nashville just beat Austin 1-0 this week. Now, they did give up a goal that was called offside. So it doesn't count, but they would have given one up if VAR was not a thing because they ruled it a goal. But they've been pretty good. We talked about kind of going into the season that their defense was good anyway because of how they played last year. They kind of started off the season not so great, and then we kind of started talking about how good their attack could be going into this season because they signed so many players. Their attack hasn't been super great, though I think they've scored the same amount of goals as Orlando, but Orlando hasn't had DK, so that's kind of a thing there. But it is just a testament to Nashville to be doing as good as they are defensively. And look, they're up to 4th in the East. They're only 2 points back of Orlando, and they've played the same amount of games as Orlando. So New England and Philly have both played 7. Orlando and Nashville have both played 6. If Nashville wins their game at hand, they're going to leapfrog Philadelphia. And then Orlando, if they win theirs, they're going to leapfrog New England. And you would have Orlando, then New England, then Nashville, then the Union. Top 4 in the East. But I feel like everybody's focusing on the unbeaten teams being Seattle and Orlando, that they're not really paying attention to Nashville because Nashville isn't converting those clean sheets to wins. And that's their biggest thing. If they can figure out their attack, they theoretically have a good chance of finishing very well. Look, I have them 7th. You had them 6th. They could be more like a 4 and a 5, a 3 and a 4. If they can just figure out the attack, because their defense looks pretty good.
Yeah, I did see an interesting thing. The 3 teams that are unbeaten they all 3 play a double pivot in the midfield, which I thought was interesting. I think that in the MLS, I think that's more the case than any other league, just because if you can control the midfield and defend well, you're really tough to beat in this league because a lot of teams don't do that well. Right. A lot of teams don't win that midfield battle, and that's where Nashville is different. Nashville, I think, personally has one of the better midfields just to win. I think that core in that midfield, you're talking about a Dax McCarty who's been outrageous since he's joined Nashville. Annabelle Godoy has played really well. Daniel Lovitz, Zimmerman's played well. David Romney's played well. Alistair Johnson when he's back there too. That's a really solid defense, really solid in attack too. Hani Mukhtar. Those are really good midfielders and defenders, and they just suck up that. I mean, they press so well too. When they do press it, just having Walker Zimmerman there is just going to clog up a middle anyway. And like you said, Jordan, this team, while they're not impressive yet in the attack, I think they do become a little bit better and they come back towards like a medium. I think it's really impressive that they're really good at home. They're really tough to beat. Obviously hadn't lost this year at home. Haven't really had the fans. And now I think Nashville, I want to say their next game is 100% capacity. And Nashville's a crazy sports town. If you've ever watched the Predators or the Titans play, that town, man, that is a tough place to go in and win. So Nashville, like you said, 6 games. Everybody else has 7 pretty much. Really good team, really tough team.
I'm excited, man. I love Dax. I can't wait to see what team he goes to next because he's always bounced around because I don't know why. He will become captain at some team and then are like, but why don't we trade him for whatever reason? And it happened like Dallas. I'm not sure if he was captain there, but he went to DC, I think, and became captain there. Then went to the Red Bulls, became captain there. And then it was like 3 years in a row where Red Bulls traded their captain. It was like Sasha Kleston was gone, Dax was gone, and somebody else was gone. And it was like every
Tim
year.
Parker.
Every year it was like, you become the captain of the Red Bulls and you're shipped out. I love Dax. He's like an old school MLS player. He is just somebody that's grinded for so long. And I think that this team could potentially be a dark horse for a good playoff run. They kind of took everybody by surprise. So maybe I can't call them a dark horse because they beat Toronto last year and then they beat They beat who else they beat? They beat like 2 or 3 teams to face off against like the Revs, I think it was. But yeah, love it. What's your third?
Yeah, so going over, and I gotta add the background, man, because this is the one that I've chosen to make my lovely background. Hope it shows up well. It does. There's the 3 Canadian teams, and then it says Canada cooling. I can't see the C behind me, but Canada cooling. It's got the nice ice breaking in here because the Canadian teams, and I kind of stretched this a little bit for the Montreal side, but I think it in 4 games, it's kind of worrisome because we're early in the season. So if you look at Toronto, 9 points in their last 10, including CCL, is not good. Like, that's technically 27 points that you could collect. They've only collected 9. Not good. And I think they're regressing. I don't think they're getting better. I thought Soteldo was going to come in, and watching them play, I thought he played really well. But man, if he doesn't do anything, sometimes I think they really struggle. Schaffelberg has been their best player, and he sat most of the game. I think that team has started to kind of hit a rut, and then you kind of wonder, okay, we're to this point now, we're kind of scuffling a little bit, dropping. Josie's out here, and he landed on his tailbone really bad in the game. And I thought for sure, I was like, that'll do him, man. Like, I thought, unfortunately, like, man, this guy just can't get away from it. And he kind of rolled around like, oh, crap. But then he luckily got up. But I think, I think eventually the wheels just start coming up. I'm not sure that Armas is the coach that, again, we talked about this early in the season. Can Armas coach this team and do well? And I don't think we think he can keep this up. Then you move over to Vancouver, 7 points in 7 matches, and they just don't have anybody creative in the midfield. That's their big issue. There's nothing going forward. Cavallini gets frustrated because there's nobody to get him the ball. Daber Caicedo they bring in, and he's been good, but he hasn't been creative enough to really carry this team. And I think they're in danger of being that wooden spoon team again eventually. So, and then you move over to Montreal, 3 points in their last 4 matches. That's not good. And they got trounced by Cincinnati. So it's just not good in Canada. I did hear rumors, though, that supposedly the Canadian government's now considering bringing them back. And I think they said, if all goes well, by September. So hopefully.
That's still a long time.
Yeah.
Look, I know Canada has had some problems with vaccination at first. I don't know where they stand now. But they did extend the border closure to like June, which I thought was surprising.
Right.
I mean, look, we're getting to a point where there's so many vaccines freely available in the U.S. And at this point, the sports teams pose no health risks, I don't think.
Yeah.
If we were to have MLS teams enter into Canada, most of them are probably vaxxed.
Especially soccer players. I think they're the only league, I want to say, that has reached, like, most teams have reached that. So there's a threshold that if you reach that as a percentage as a team, the restrictions of, like, you don't have to wear masks.
85.
You can go outside, you can eat in restaurants, you can go to basketball games.
At least in baseball, it's 85% for the dugout to not have to wear masks and stuff. And some teams have had trouble reaching that in baseball. But, I think, Bedoya just finished up his vaccinations. He posted that out there. So we'll see how it goes. But, I don't think they would pose too much of a threat to Canada. I mean, the vaccines are freely available here, and the players are getting them. The fans are getting them. Canada, on the other hand, I've been reading up a little bit about theirs, and they were a little slow initially, but they're starting to do – I think they're supposed to be doing – I'm not sure if it's the Johnson & Johnson, but they have their own one shot I think they're trying to do. But we'll see.
Yeah.
September seems really late to have that be a thing.
They said, like, if they could get clearance, maybe bring the USA teams – like, there was some talk thrown out there, like, late July, maybe, like that no fans, but the U.S. teams could go into Canada. So maybe that becomes things with or something with legs. But again, they said they were like, legs. I think that their government was, and they're very cautious about it because they don't want it to get too bad because their vaccination had been slower. So,
yeah. My last one I want to talk about here is Portland rebounding here. Vancouver beat them week 1, 1-0. That was a surprise. Portland beat Houston week 2. Then you had Dallas smash them in week 3. They lose to Seattle in week 4. They rebound against San Jose in week 5. And in week 6, they trounce LA Galaxy 3-0. Now, of course, part of this was due to a red card, so you can never say how that game would have went otherwise. But there was a red card here, a vicious tackle on Andy Polo, done by
Eric Williams.
Eric Williams.
Derek Williams.
Oh, Derek Williams. Sorry. Yeah, here it is. Just not a great tackle. Very. I don't even know how to describe it. You just have to watch it if you haven't watched it.
It was like oh crap, I shouldn't have done that.
It was not good form either.
No.
Like, it was pretty much like a knee slide, almost like sliding on your knees going into their knees. It was not great. And Polo's out for the rest of the year. He's getting surgery this week. So not great. But that's not the part I want to talk about. I want to talk about Portland rebounding here. Look, they had a bad start to their season, right? That Vancouver loss was pretty brutal. That's a Cascadian team. It was in the middle of the CCL stuff. Since they got knocked out of CCL, though, they've kind of turned it around. That San Jose result is good. Of course, they lost to Seattle. That's not terrible. It's really the Dallas one and the Vancouver one that really stood out, right? And for a while, they were near the bottom of the West. They're now up to 6th place. They got 9 points out of 6 played. They are 8 points back of Seattle. Probably not catching them. But they could probably make a run to 2nd. But I think it's a little sad that we both chose them for the supporter shield. Probably not happening unless if Seattle hits a lull and Portland goes off. But Portland and Seattle do have to play each other 2 more times this season, which means 6 points up to grab. I should hopefully be in attendance of one of those games to get more information on when I can get tickets. So, yeah, Portland, turn around. I feel like nobody's talking about them.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, too, is, Sebastian Blanco was supposed to be back for CCL, was supposed to be back for MLS start of the season. It's May 24th, right? 25th. That's the concerning thing for them, and having some of these people go down like Attinella, having some injury issues combined with, I guess, their inconsistencies at times, keeping the Charos on the field at the same time, and now Polo's hurt, and now you have to replace midfielders. The depth starts to take a hit. So yeah, a healthy Portland team is a really good team. It's just, can they get healthy? You're still missing. Who's the striker that they're missing?
Nias Goda. He's Portland, yeah.
Yeah. They thought that he could be something too. But again, they also haven't had Ebobisse playing to his best abilities yet. So a team that's very dinged up, and if they can get healthy, like you said, Jordan, I think they can push towards the top 4 of the East, and that's all they really
West.
need. Yeah,
they can't be top 4.
If you keep going east, you'll eventually run into Portland. Unless the world's
going
flat.
That way, you'll run into it at some point.
Yeah, either that or you'll run into Kyrie at the end of the world. So.
Oh my. Yeah, so that's all of my headlines, and you've done all of your headlines. So let's recap the rest of the games here real quick. Cincinnati beat Montreal. We kind of touched on it a bit, but 56 minutes in, Kyoto, my boy, scores for Montreal. Then Locadia scores in the 70th minute. Valicila scores in the 86th. And Cameron played well in the back line there. I think he made MLS Team of the Week.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm.
Galaxy Portland we talked about, but that was 60 minutes in Mora, 69 minutes Valeri scores, and the 47th minute was Mora as well. Miami at Chicago. Chicago gets a win here. Stojanovic scoring. Just Inter having one shot on target. That's it. And it was saved. So not much to really talk about there, I guess. They're just... Look, Miami is like a Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde, yeah, I was saying Heckle. Mr. Heckle from
Heckle too.
Jekyll and Hyde team, where they are they beat the Union in Subaru Park.
Yeah.
And then it's like, never mind, we're going to lose to Chicago. I mean, I don't get it.
Played Galaxy well. Like, it just don't make sense.
Yeah. Toronto lose to Orlando with Tesho Akindele scoring. Orlando had, like 3 players down. No, not like during the match, just no João Martino, no Rowan, no Nani, no DK, who lost the playoff final. So he should be on his way back. Vander Vaarter playing well. Good.
Yeah, he was impressive. Like, he was, there's rumors that have said that, like, Nani, like, this is it. Like, once his contract is up, he's gone, and he doesn't even want to discuss, because I think he wants to go back to Portugal and play, one of his clubs. But it is, Vander Vaarter looked really impressive. He does this thing where he, like, lifts the ball. It's not really like a pass. He kind of, like, just gets underneath it and, like, chips it up. To instead of like really like a Kevin De Bruyne or like missile across the box, it's one of more of these like loft pitching wedge kind of passes, but it finds its targets most of the time. It's pretty impressive.
Look, if Nani does leave, that is more reason to keep DK this year, make the run for MLS Cup this year, and then rebuild around Vander Vaarter and selling DK and bringing more players in. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do. Crew, Zelarayan goes on MVP mode here, wins the game with the 82nd minute kick to equalize and the 90 plus 5 minute goal to take the lead and win it. So pretty good from Zelarayan there.
Crew looked bad though. Again, they did not. It just didn't look good. They had to have him do it, and he was like, "Fine, I'll do it." But 2 free kicks to win you a game, that's not...
You can't rely on that because you can't rely on the calls. You can't rely on any of that. RSL at Dallas finishes 2-2. So that one is fun. Jimmy Maurer back in goal after missing a month. We had 20-minute... 20-minute goal. Rubio Ravine. I was misreading that at first. I was like, wait, the first goal wasn't until the 43rd minute. Then I was like, no, it's the 20th minute. I was so confused. Then the 43rd minute, Dallas equalized. 84th minute, Dallas takes the lead. 86 minutes, Krylock ties it up. Red Bulls at New England Revolution. Red Bulls take an early lead that would have given Orlando top of the East. And then the Revs said, nope. And they score in the 36th, the 45th plus 2, and the 82nd minute. And it is Bo, Buchanan, and Buxa, the 3 Bs.
Yeah.
No Henry Kessler for New England. John Bell getting the start. We talked about John Bell with the guys from Revolution Recap, jokingly. But yeah, I think Bruce was asked about it, and he just kind of said, like, he's just, I guess, rotating. But yeah, Revolution didn't look great, and this is, for the first half or 30 minutes, and then they kind of turned it on. Vancouver at Houston. Memo Rodriguez 8 minutes in, Urruti 42 minutes in, and then Casado in the 80th minute to pull one back, but it's not enough. We kind of talked about them a bit.
I like what Houston's doing, though. I really like what Tab's done with this second year in Houston and building a team that, getting Memo to play in a more reasonable role for himself, kind of like a creative mix between a wing and a midfielder, more towards his norm of a midfielder, creating Maxi Rudy has played well. There's times where he's been in his career. There's times where he plays well, and then there's times it's like, why didn't you hit that? That was about as easy as you could have made it. So I don't really know what's going on. But Houston's defense is what's carrying them. I thought that they played really well. And, I think it's a team that we'd highlight before a couple of weeks ago, I think it was on the show, because we were talking about how good they had been, kind of impressive in what we had thought. And it was the first game that we live streamed. But yeah, I mean, they've got Boniak Garcia, who's played well at center back. He was more of like a defensive mid. They push him back into a center back role next to Parker. I think if they can add like a center back next to Parker that's more center back and can move Boniak up, I think that helps. But this team, I'm just really impressed with them, and I love Tab Ramos. I love his interviews too, because he's just so laid back, it seems, or just like what he has to offer.
SKC at San Jose. San Jose scores early, 4 minutes in, but then SKC score 3 times to win the game. We got the 15th minute, 60th minute, 75th minute. SKC is on a roll recently.
Polito's on a roll. That's terrifying. That's terrifying for them. That's terrifying for U.S. fans, because I think that he's like the number one there at striker for Mexico. So El Tri and all those guys. And because I think not Rui Diaz. What's the other one? Who's the Mexican striker for Wolves, Jordan? Jimenez.
Yes,
Raul Jimenez.
Out.
Yeah, I don't think he'll play again, unfortunately. But I think that Alan Polito, and Chicharito didn't even get called in, but Polito seems to be the one that they're marking for this qualification. So that'll be somebody to watch, definitely.
Carlos Vela makes an appearance in the starting 11 against Colorado. Diego Rossi scores twice in the 14th and 33rd minute. 50th minute, Barrios scores for the Rapids. Game finishes 2-1. LAFC just not really good in the second half. Vela off on the 60th minute, probably on a time limit. It's just how it goes, right? But they got the points.
I was going to say their first half was LAFC worthy. The second half was just quiet. But again, when Vela comes off, and if you have to miss Vela for any time, that team's just not the same.
Atlanta at Seattle finishes 1-1. Rui Diaz 6 minutes in. Joseph Martinez in the 86th minute with a penalty. Seattle not playing super great in that game, but didn't matter. They still got the point. I know they probably would have liked to get 3, but they're still off to their hottest start in MLS history in 7 games. Seattle is never in their 12 years or so played the first 7 games better than this.
The last time they did, they won MLS Cup, which is wonderful.
There you go. Philly at DC. Philly wins that one 1-0. Shabilko scores in the 45th plus 4 minutes. Initially ruled offside. VAR gives the goal because his timing on the run was just perfect. We do get a debut for Gazdag as well, and he kind of got into it. He kind of got into the game a bit. But then DC United in the last 15, 20 minutes really started putting some more pressure on, and this is how they played against Orlando as well. And this is why I think that once they get more organized and they get some more healthy players, they could be a real treat to watch.
I was impressed with your text message and the timing of, I hope he gets involved, Gazdag. And right away, he was he had one where he tried to get the ball up over a defender, and it was constant, and it was a stretch of 5 minutes of him constantly getting the ball in good areas. Just couldn't quite find his, I think, a lot of adrenaline and going forward and stuff like that. He's just
that game was on Sunday. His first training was on Saturday. So nuts. I mean, that is great.
So what was he playing? He was playing more of the left side of that diamond, I think, or the right side. No, it'd have been right side bottom.
Yeah, I
of
think it
that
was the right
diamond.
side.
Yeah, he looked good though. He looks like he's going to be something, and that's terrifying because that diamond already looks like it's going to eat you alive.
Austin at Nashville. Nashville win that one 1-0. Randall Leal scores 35th minute in. Alexander Ring is back for Austin. Sapong gets another start. There was a goal scored by Stroud for Austin, but it was overturned due to VAR. Good call, I thought. I saw some Austin fans complaining because, look, what I could see is that they're trying to say it maybe hit the defender instead of Ring, I think it was. But it, to me, clearly looked like it hit Ring with the way that the ball trajectory went and where you freeze frame it. So
I got a question for you, Jordan. Before we move on to the previews and stuff, you think Josh Wolf is on the hot seat?
Realistically, no. I don't think he is on the hot seat in the front office. I think he's in the hot seat fan wise. Apparently, I didn't notice this. Apparently, he was packing up early, so they were really pissed about that.
Yeah, he had his he always carries that folder, and he was grabbing it and getting his jacket to leave.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably pissed at the way.
I was gonna say that's more anger of him, like saying this is like when our coach used to get mad at us. Like I remember, it wasn't like they would like blow up and throw stuff around. Like they'd get their stuff, and as soon as the game over, they would just take off down like into the locker room, and you knew, like that was like a oh crap. Like
that's what I would think from this too.
Yeah,
I don't think it's like a. Well, I might as well, like, I don't think it's like one of those things where you're sitting in class and you're looking at the clock and you're like, 5 minutes, let me start packing up. And your teacher's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Don't you dare pack up yet. I haven't dismissed you. Logan pulls that with his students all the time.
I do.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's annoying. It's so annoying.
But yeah, so look, they got to calm down. Austin fans, if you're listening, just calm down. Calm down. You're an expansion team. You had a great start to the season. You're coming a little bit back down to earth, but guess what? Most of your games are going to be at home in the latter half of the year. You're going to have a chance to get 3 points. Pick up points while you're at home. You can't expect to get points and win games on the road constantly at the beginning of the season. I mean, when we talk about Sporting Kansas City, I think they had a really rough start to their season when they rebranded and they were waiting for their stadium to get opened. And then they finished out the second half of the season really strong because all their games were at home. And that is what you're going to have. Right. And you're going to have your fans there. It's going to help. Look, we always kind of say this with a lot of sports. Win your home games and win half of your away games.
You're right.
In soccer, it's more like get some sort of points on the road. You've done that so far. You've gotten some points on the road. You got 6 points on the road against some very tough teams to start the season. So I don't think there's any reason to worry.
Right.
You're an expansion team. This happens.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is like you are much better off than other expansion teams. Don't you dare take that for granted because Orlando was a crap show when it came into the league. Minnesota is in a weird spot. And I think Atlanta, too, like got exposed. They were very, very good early on. And now look at where they are. If I'm Austin, I'm like, I love the direction. I love Claudio Reyna. I love the fact that he's developing, that they spend. I love the ownership. I love my stadium. I love the city. I love the fans. So, I mean, I get it. Get frustrated. Be mad at the players for not playing well. But this team's playing well for the team that they have. I think that.
And you know what else?
What's up?
You don't ever have to worry about getting relocated because we know how hard Precourt got to fight to get the team in Austin.
Wait till they move to Baltimore. You're going to be so happy.
Yeah, wait, and here you go. I'm going to read some stuff for you right here. So they beat Minnesota, who's below them. Okay. They beat the Rapids, who are in 5th place. Here's the teams they've lost to. Kansas City, who are in 2nd place in the West. 3rd place, LA Galaxy in the West. And, the team in 4th place on the East who's undefeated, Nashville. What do you expect? You're not going to win MLS Cup this year. You're not going to win Supporter Shield this year. Just
or next year. To be honest, you're not going to win it next year. I think they need realistically 3 years. Like, I think that's a realistic time period for a team to go from scratch to competing for some kind of silverware is 3 full years under Josh Wolf, getting his system. They don't have an attacking player that's going to score. I can tell you that right now. Like, they don't have one on their roster that I've seen that's going to get you 15, 20 goals. That's what they need next. And I'm not sure you can find that in that would take like a Sergio Aguero going, I want to go to Austin. That's what it takes. It takes that, and they're not going to be a market like that, I don't think. I think their market's going to be a Mexican market, a Brazilian market, where they're going to find these young players that need like a Brenner 3-year plan. Like, hey, this is going to be you in 3 years.
We put them 10th place on our predictions. They're currently sitting 11th. For me, this is exactly how it's going to go. And look, like I said, you're going to get a lot of you've played 6 road games. Mm-hmm. You're going to have, 18 home games still?
Yep.
To pick up 3 points in each one, 1 point. And so, and the teams you lost to are really great. And guess what? You're probably going to lose on Sunday. You're playing Seattle.
Yep.
You're probably going to lose. Like, that's okay. And then guess what? You're probably going to lose to SKC again on the 12th.
Right.
But then you open up against San Jose. You get to face Minnesota again. Then you're going to face the Crew. You got chances to pick up some points, man, in the month of June and July. So just don't jump off the bridge yet. Don't ask for your manager to get fired yet. I did see one of them saying that if it was Mexico, he would have been fired. Well, guess what? This isn't Mexico. This is MLS. So buckle up. You're going to have Josh Wolf for a little bit. He was groomed for this position. They're going to give him his chance, which is going to be at least this season and most of next season. And not every team is Atlanta United who's going to win a trophy in their second season.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. Seattle was one of the best teams in the league, and it took them 7 seasons to win MLS Cup.
Right. I mean, look at Orlando, 2015.
Yeah, 6 years.
2021, they're finally competitive enough where I think they could challenge for an MLS Cup. And they need an attacking player, but I think they can get that, and it's taken 6 years. The Loons, they're going to be on that same trajectory, I think. Reynoso is really good, but I think they are a couple of years that we've seen so far that they're a couple of years
and a new
more.
Manager.
Right. Yeah. I think Adrian Heath, whatever it takes Adrian Heath to get fired and a new manager step in for 2 years, then the Loons will be that same team.
Yeah,
and that's about 6 years.
That's probably what I would say. So. All right, let's go ahead and preview the rest of the thing. So we do have some games on and then we have a long break. So we have games this weekend, then a break. So we'll be probably talking some USA stuff during the break. But we have Chicago versus Montreal Saturday at 1 o'clock. Most games are on Saturday this week. That's on ESPN Plus. New York Red Bulls, versus Orlando, 1 o'clock at Red Bull Arena. Why don't you fly up here for that, man?
I got you, dude.
Cincinnati versus the New England Revs. That's at 3 o'clock. That's at West End Stadium on ESPN Plus. Columbus Crew versus Toronto at 3 o'clock. That's on MLS Live on ESPN Plus. Atlanta versus Nashville at 3:30. That's on ESPN Plus. You know what's fun about all 3 of those games I just said?
What's that?
They were all on during the UEFA Champions League for whatever reason.
Because ESPN Plus. That's why. If it was like Paramount, there's no way they would have done that. Jordan, we didn't even talk about that. We didn't even talk about the deal that could take MLS to its own. I don't even know. Like, from what I read, it looked like it could be its own streaming package unless ESPN ups its ante and says, hey, this is what we'll do for you.
We'll see. I don't know. I think they'll stick with ESPN.
You think so?
Yeah. they're not big enough league to have like a MLS specific thing. I used to buy it when they had MLS Live separately, and it was like $60. And guess what? I paid for it, but they're not big enough to have like an MLB TV or NBA TV type of thing, I don't think. But the Cincinnati, New England, Columbus, Toronto, Atlanta, Nashville, I'm pretty sure those are the local teams that schedule that. That's just poor planning.
Yeah, because those ratings are going to be brutal.
Ratings are probably going to be brutal locally, but also, are you going to have enough people showing up? Because it's going to be, I'm going to have to have, 4 screens or something. We have LAFC versus New York City FC at 5 o'clock on Unimas TUDN Twitter. So that's right after the Champions League final. We have LA Galaxy versus San Jose at 7 o'clock on Unimas TUDN and Twitter. Miami versus DC United at 8 o'clock on MLS Live on ESPN+. Kansas City versus Houston at 8:30 on ESPN+. 9 o'clock, we have Colorado versus Dallas on ESPN+. And at 9:30, we have Salt Lake versus Minnesota on ESPN+. On Sunday, we have a friendly Switzerland versus the United States of America on ESPN, Unimas, and TUDN. 2 o'clock. Be there. Then at 7 o'clock, we have the Philadelphia Union versus Portland Timbers on FS1. Both teams finding form recently. Who comes out on top? That's at Subaru Park. 9:30, Seattle versus Austin FC on FS1 as well. FS1 doubleheader there with an ESPN friendly at 2 o'clock for the U.S. men's national team. I'm excited for that.
This is a big weekend. Looking at these matches, holy crap.
We got Champions League. We got playoff finals for the
championship.
Lower leagues.
Yep.
We got MLS games all Saturday, 2 MLS games on Sunday with a friendly. I'm off on Monday for Memorial Day. I have no softball this week because of Memorial Day. So, hey, I have all weekend to watch these games.
Sunday's going to be a blast, though. Look at Sunday. Sunday is U.S. men's national team. Yeah, and by the way, U.S. men's national team, your training facilities are gorgeous. Did you see the video?
They're in Switzerland, yeah.
Yeah, it's the big, it's great. It's the big Alps in the background. It's great. But looking forward to that. DK is actually there. He's I don't think he's participating, but he was watching training, and he's going to be traveling with that team.
I'm assuming in case anything happens, they can add him onto the roster.
Yep. Because he's not back. So those that are keeping up with the DK saga, DK supposedly won't be back until right around July. So we'll see what that means for Orlando City and if he actually does stay in Orlando. But then Portland and Philly, that's going to be a blast. And then Seattle Sounders and Austin. I don't have school on Monday, so I'll be able to watch that as I lay in bed at night. So, man. What a weekend.
And then we have a break.
Houston.
Then we don't have anything until June 12th with SKC in Austin.
Yep. And that's right around Euros too, right when Euros start.
Yeah.
So
because we have the Nations League starting on the 3rd. So we'll be covering that stuff on June 3rd on Paramount Plus. So that'll be fun. Yeah, so we have a nice little break to talk mostly the men's national team, which we haven't had a chance to do. We can also talk some NWSL soon, too, because we'll have that break. And they just got started on their season recently as well. I think on the 15th is when that started. But it's fun. It's fun. Do you have anything else coming up this week, Logan, that you're excited about sports-wise, soccer-wise?
Obviously the Orlando City game is exciting. I think the other one, the one on Saturday, because we didn't really talk a lot about Saturday, it's got great matchups too. I think the one that I'm looking forward to is the SKC Houston Dynamo game. I think that the way that Dynamo are playing and the way that SKC I think is climbing, I think it'll be interesting to see if Houston can compete with them. Houston playing really well, and they're going into a very difficult environment in Children's Mercy Park. SKC looked like the dominant team heading up towards the Sounders, up into that right underneath them on that 2 spot. So that's the match I'm looking forward to. Which one you got? Your eye on?
Miami versus DC United at Drive Pink Stadium is the one I'm looking forward to because I want to see what Jekyll and Hyde team of Miami shows up because DC is going to put on a good game. They're going to play good defense. They're probably going to score a goal or give up, only one goal, and they'll have to see if they get a point or all three. I think this Miami team is actually there for the taking right now with the way they're playing, that DC could get all 3 points. So I'll be excited for that one.
And also the Crew and Toronto game. Crew will be looking for some vengeance in that last blowout that Toronto put on them. So,
yes,
gosh,
unfortunately, that's right
weekend.
in the middle of Chelsea and City. So I'm gonna have to have that on the other screen.
Yeah, me too.
I will say Cincinnati versus Revs is interesting as well because I want to see how the Revs handle it because Cincinnati just came out of nowhere and beat who did Montreal, right?
Yeah. 2-1.
And the Revs have been kind of like good, but not good enough, I think, for me, if I'm judging it. And probably sounds like I have an agenda against them. I swear I don't.
Neither do I. And people will think I do, but
the way I'm reading it, I guess, is different than other people. But yeah, so those are some games that I'm excited about. And of course, the Sunday games are great. The Sunday games are fantastic. Philly on a rebound, Portland on the rebound. We barely ever have Portland over here on the East, so that's interesting. And then the Seattle Austin, which
Austin gets to travel to Lumen.
I'm already telling you, Austin, you're not winning that game. And if you do, then I want to hear some reversals of those Josh Wolf's fired claims. Instead, it should be Josh Wolf's promoted somehow claims.
Yeah.
So what do we got coming up this week? We have the power rankings tomorrow on Thursday releasing. So you can take a look at those. If you're watching the video, boom, quick look at that. Pause that if you want to study it. We'll see you later on there. On Saturday, we have the closed pyramid, which we've done about 3 of those episodes. It's just myself. Usually I record only very early on Saturday mornings. And it's been fun, man. The USL has been off to a pretty crazy start. If you think having like 7 games played and 6 games played for some of these teams are weird, how about 1 game played and 4 games played for some of these USL teams? Yeah, we can't do that. No, I mean, it would be impossible. My Bobcats still haven't won a game, so that's fun. And so we talk all that kind of stuff there. And if you're interested in Marvel stuff, I'm going to probably do an Eternals trailer breakdown, news catch up on our Marvel podcast, The Infinity Saga and Beyond. And of course, I'm recapping the Bad Batch on our Star Wars podcast, The Pod Awakens. All of those and this show are part of the 14301 Productions podcasting network. So follow that on Twitter, and we tweet out links for all of our shows. And until then, we'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.